welcome back to the Sawyer On-Water podcast, everyone. Today we're out on the beautiful Rogue River, and it's a nice summer day. It's gonna probably get a little hot. Today we're talking with Jim, and Jim's a fishing guide, and so we'll have a little different angle on our discussion. And yes, we are actually just in the raft for cinematography sense, just so we can actually frame both of us being in the same frame. But Jim typically is in a drift boat or a fishing raft, and so this is a little foreign to him, not exactly his primary craft. So I'll turn it over to Jim. Jim, go ahead and give me an introduction on just who you are, where are you, what's your operation, and what are you up to?
Well, hello, my name is Jim Andras. I'm a fly fishing guide on the Rogue and moved here and have been since 2009. My wife and I moved to the Rogue Valley in 2005, and I basically fish the Rogue, the upper Rogue. We do it year-round between the trout and steelhead fishing, and we're really fortunate to have it right here in our backyard. So thanks for having me, Zach.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so if you're just primarily a fishing guide on the Rogue, kind of you're dealing with a main stretch of river and dealing with a lot of the issues that happen on the river. What are some of the issues that you've had to deal with on the Rogue?
Well, in particular, the last two winters, we've had a lot of high water. We've had not just a lot of high water, but a lot of extended periods of high water, which have made for some interesting winter fishing. Actually, the ability to fish has actually been minimized by, we've been lucky to have it, we need it. It's just made fishing a little interesting.
So basically, yeah. I mean, so winter fishing, so you primarily are targeting steelhead fishing.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about winter steelhead fishing, because that is winter steelhead fishing is a whole separate little micro system of fishing. And yes, you have to deal with a lot of elements that are out of your control.
Yes.
Like, in the summertime, we're primarily dealing with the summer heat. And then also we all know that what is really out of our control is what the weather's going to be, as far as if we're going to get smoke coming in from wildfires and kind of those things that are just out of our control. But in the winter, talk a little bit about that, because in the wintertime, you are challenged with so many more things that are out of your control.
Yeah, the winter is a totally different season for us, because the main difference being fluctuating water levels on a sometimes daily basis. And so where we can fish, what water we fish is constantly changing, and the last two winters have been especially challenging. But the kind of cool part about it is it's changed the river quite a bit on some sections that we fish. And so when we do have the opportunity to get out, it's like we're on a new river. So that's been the exciting part about it.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, the rivers are ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about that a lot, and literally from an angler's perspective, that is something that is interesting and exciting, but also it's another challenge, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, I think you were telling me about a fishing hole that was just down the ways here that was just a prime hole for you, and then the next season it just completely changes.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Let's go with the forward paddle.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of high water this winter. Changed this section of what we're on actually today, to the point where, it shifted the gravel bar enough to where it essentially cut off the run. The run is no longer fishable, and the run actually directly beneath that or below that run has changed substantially too. So we're still trying to figure things out. But thankfully the fish are going to be where they're going to be. So they'll find where they want to be, what's comfortable for them, and we'll find it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things is that I think we need to let people know that this area that we're floating right now is an area that used to be dammed up. And so this area is really rapidly changing. and any big winter, you get a lot of change. Kind of where we just floated through, we basically saw where the bank has eroded away from just high water. You know, I mean, they moved one of the river accesses because it used to be right on this bank,
Yeah.
and that just disappeared. Like I think the first winter,
It did, yeah,
It was
yeah.
like, and the river literally moved like 25 feet. It just took the boat ramp completely away.
Yeah.
And so, you know, this area is definitely ever changing. You know, just across from where we put in, huge beach now.
Yeah.
That wasn't there,
Right.
you know, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Let's go with a little forward. Just keep it going forward.
Okay.
But yeah, so you know, basically you're dealing with the elements, and those things are definitely out of your control. And then you're also dealing with the fish runs,
Hey,
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so like you've guided for quite a bit of time, and you actually have witnessed the change of the Rogue River, right? Because you were guiding before the dams really started coming out.
Yes.
Let's go a little forward.
Yeah.
So take us through that little bit where, so you were guiding regularly, and then we started seeing the dams come out, and it was just it was a few dams at a time, right? I think it was basically set up to be a dam per year, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And just below us here was Powerhouse Dam. That was the first one to go out, and that was one that definitely a lot of the whitewater folks were tuned into, because that was one that it was a low overhead dam that they were literally running every day in their recreational whitewater trip, which is not something you normally do, but it was kind of like on this river, we had figured it out, how to work it in. And so that was like the first domino. And then once that domino fell, it was just like 1 year after another. And so talk us through that, because you were guiding through that whole period, correct?
Yeah, correct. And I'm a fan of we'll call it the new river, for sure. It's opened up access not only for anglers but for boaters, floaters alike, and it's I think a beautiful stretch of the river. And two, it's opened up habitat for spawning salmon and steelhead alike. And I guess maybe the third impact that I'm a fan of is the fact that now the fish have the juvenile fish have a easier path to the ocean when they're migrating out. So I think it's been a really great thing for the river, and places where once were covered by a reservoir are now, you know, we float them through the fall, and we can see spawning salmon using that habitat.
And people can kind of see, like right behind us here, like there's definitely a big gravel bar that all kind of developed, and that's just ever changing. That whole gravel bar is something that changes constantly.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like one after another after another.
Yeah.
Let's go a little forward. Keep it going. Keep going. Yeah, so like this area that we're in, it literally, this was just kind of a pond, right?
Yes,
it was literally just a pond, and through all the years, keep going a little forward, all the years of transition, we actually are starting to see, like literally seeing spawning beds set up in this area, which is just phenomenal. It really kind of leads to the testament of the river kind of coming back to its natural sense. That's good right there.
Okay.
So now on kind of following all of the progression of the river, and we are actually witnessing a lot of that right now as well to the south of us on the Klamath. But that when you were navigating that, do you keep like a river log or anything like that? Do you jot any of that down, or how do you keep that kind of in, or you just keep it in your head?
Mental log. Yeah.
Mental log, yeah.
Mental log, yep. Yeah. Probably should keep it would be interesting, and I tell my guests often enough that I should have started taking photographs of certain sections of the river when I started this back in 2009, because so many places, not just on this particular stretch, but throughout the Upper Rogue, some runs are just unrecognizable from where they were back then, and side channels cut off, new channels formed, islands kind of blown up. You know, I mean, it's been amazing change over the, say, 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is one of those things that, we always talk about, how the rivers are alive, and they have attitude and they have personality. And this river is no different, even though it is dammed up above us. There is a flood control reservoir, Lost Creek. They didn't take that out. But really the river is kind of running natural from there all the way to the ocean now. And it does give the fish much easier migration. And in turn, it does give us this very, very fluid, fluctuating river system.
Totally.
And it's like this area that we float through here is always changing. And,
Well, I mean, last year, directly behind us, there was probably 3 or 4 logs, full-size trees with the root balls taller than I am, and they're gone.
Right.
So I mean, it changes in a big way, which is challenging, but also what rivers do.
Yeah,
so,
no, absolutely, and we're seeing that on the Klamath as well. I mean, it's like I've had the joy of actually running that area up there once, and look forward to getting back there and doing it more. And the fishery is something that's going to be a little further along, a little further down the road for the fishery to come back. But we're seeing whitewater rafters that are starting to figure out how to run these channels and how to run this kind of new river. And it literally is the Klamath of the new Klamath River, because that actually, the removal of those dams pretty much opened up a section of river that was not raftable.
Sure.
For over 100 years.
Right.
And so now it's like literally, this is something that is completely new, and it's just happening in your backyard kind of thing, where the rogue. So we are actually very fortunate to be kind of living through this period of time where we've had major changes on 2 major river systems in this area. And I mean, one could think that it's probably something that's just going to kind of continue, because it's like you're starting to get proven data. Right. And so like the river systems do come back with strong returns. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It takes a long time. Property owners on the rivers want instantaneous gratification.
Of course.
And it's kind of like, well, yes, your lakefront has turned to riverfront, but if we see the population of salmon and steelhead come back, won't it be worth it? And some of them are just kind of like, you get definitely issues on both sides. But from an angler's perspective, you are kind of in the business of providing an activity, but it's just for sport, right? And let's talk a little bit about that, because really, I mean, if you're a fly fishing steelhead guide on the road, you're pretty much in the camp of exercising, catch and release.
Correct. And
you're pretty much, let's go over a little bit about just the stressing of the fish. And literally, you don't really want to pull the fish out and hold them up in the drift boat. You want to get down in the water. Talk a little bit about that, because, I mean, you are an expert in that. And as I float down the river, I see so much variation in that. Sure. Right? And I'm sure you see the same thing, where there's just...
Well, I mean, I'm a believer in keeping fish in the water. I mean, they go through a lot on their migration upstream, especially during this time of the year when water temperatures come up and they get a little bit more under stress. So, and you combine that with the fact that we hook them and fight them. So I'm I'm a believer in landing fish as quickly as possible. Keeping them in the water as much as possible, if not entirely, and then making sure that they're ready to go when we release them, because that's sometimes the easiest thing to do when you've landed a fish and you're ready to find another one, let it go, and I think it's just imperative just to make sure that fish is strong and ready to go.
Right. And it's kind of one of those things, right? It's like, you have to almost educate folks to where, like, hey, this is a steelhead. Yeah. You just got an incredible experience. Yeah. But don't take that fish and treat it like a bass and just chuck it back in the water. You gotta try and bring it back and let it have its time to actually get to where it's getting oxygenated and climatized to going back in or let them swim it away. You know? And so like that is very crucial to, I think, just building that sustainable fishery. Right?
Totally, yeah.
And just that whole concept of like, yes, we're fishing for a fish that, you know, is the fish of 1,000 casts.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, when you do get onto them, you know, you want to take care with them. And then, you know, once that experience is done, you're going to let them go.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe somebody else will have a chance to catch that fish as well.
Right.
You know, and so that's a whole concept change of just kind of more of, you know, selling the sport and the experience versus kind of the tag and bag. And I think, you know, the tag and bag years are really pretty much behind us. And so now the river is a resource. And I know you're involved with some of that, and I kind of talk a little bit about just kind of some of the things that you do here locally as a guide, and things that people can be aware of to just kind of help protect this valuable resource we all have here. Because the Rogue, literally, I mean, it floats through, I mean, there's 250 floatable miles, and, you know, it's going to go through at least, you know, 300,000 to 400,000 people population-wise.
Yeah.
And the Rogue is done quite well for like just being a very clean river, you know, as far as, you know, at this point, we're pretty fortunate. We don't have any industrial pollution really to speak of. But what types of challenges and organizations are working on that? Like, I mean, I know there's the Rogue River Keepers, and there's the Rogue River Council, and there's a lot of rogue entities.
Yeah.
Anything that's specific to the fishing entity?
Well, yeah, Rogue River Keeper does a great job of keeping watch on clean water and in Rogue River, and then also involved with Native Fish Society.
Oh, right.
Which really is involved on the policy end of things in terms of protecting native wild fish, and you know, they both have their work cut out for them.
Right.
Even though we're very fortunate to have this in our backyard, and we continue to see wild fish return year after year in relatively healthy numbers. There's still challenges out there, and so, but both groups work really hard at keeping the Rogue River a great place to fish and to recreate.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the Rogue also does get, you know, I mean, it is it's an economic driver for a lot of the valley. You know, I mean, you're able to, you know, make your living guiding on this, and you know, there's others that are doing the whitewater rafting, and so the Rogue is very well known. But with every river that actually has popularity, there's challenges. You know, like the more people that actually get out on the river, and the more like the powerboat challenges and all those different things, you know, it definitely it taxes the river system a bit.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, if there's any like, are there programs locally that people can participate in, as far as, like, obviously I know that like the Rogue River Keepers does like a cleanup, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I would just say that the best way to get involved is to sign up for newsletters from any conservation organization that interests you.
Right.
And that way they'll keep everybody informed on any issues, whether it's a river cleanup or whether it's potential change in regulations, whether it's fishing regulations, boating regulations. I find probably, especially with how busy life gets, and how sometimes how the news cycles go. I figure if you can find a conservation organization that kind of suits your interests, to just sign up for emails that typically come out fairly often, and that way it just kind of keeps you informed on what's going on, and you can choose what you want to be involved with. I personally find the most challenging aspect of all of this is not just to get involved, but to stay involved. Because from my experience, nothing happens fast.
Right. Just like the change of the river, it happens slowly over years, and also the change of the river on policies and procedures happens very slow and over time.
Yes.
And so definitely, I mean, but staying involved as far as being aware of those things, you know, being on a newsletter so you are alerted when something is actually changing, and when there are things that you should speak out with, or you feel comfortable speaking out about in your area, you know, being aware of those. And that's a lot of what those organizations do, is they definitely let you know when, you know, hey, this senator or this congressperson is coming to town, and they're going to be talking about this issue.
Correct.
And so, like, we want to get as many people there as possible that are on the side of the fish, and really kind of give them that, you know, that human experience for sure.
Yeah, and then I'd also add to that, you know, oftentimes organizations will issue an action alert if there's something that needs, if during a, say, like a public comment period, and oftentimes they'll attach a form letter to those action alerts. Where you can essentially, and while that's great, from what I've learned, if you can just take a couple extra minutes and actually personalize it, even with a couple of sentences.
Right. Just a little bit of, give it a little bit of your own intro, put a little something in there that kind of gives that little personalized touch, so it's not just the same letter that they see over and over and over again.
Yes.
With different signatures on it.
Correct, and that makes it. I know that makes a difference. And so that's a real way to know that what you're doing is making a difference.
Absolutely. Well, I also know that you know, you actually have been guiding through pretty much the entire time of raising a family.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I think that guides that are raising kids when they're guiding it's a whole different realm. And those kids don't necessarily realize how fortunate they are, because you know, not every kid learns to fly fish before they're at the age of 12. You know, but most fishing guides kids do get that opportunity. And so let's talk a little bit about that. I know your kids are fairly grown up now. How old are your kids right now?
My son James is 16, and my daughter Brecken is 12, going on 22.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, of course. She's a young woman ready to be. So and so family trips, do both the kids like to go out and fish? And
my son loves to fish. He's into it for sure. My daughter's always been hot and cold. For a time, she really loved to row.
Nice.
And in the family, she was the one where I thought, okay, here we go, right? When you know, she's gonna keep this going, right?
Gonna be doing it all.
And then 12 hit, and it changed everything. But she still likes to fish, get out on the river occasionally. It's just become a little bit more challenging, but
right.
Yeah.
And I know that it's also a little bit of a family business, because I know your wife Rachel also does some things in this realm. Tell me a little bit about that. I know that she's also kind of, you know, she's full-time mom as well. Kind of, how does that whole family business piece come together?
Well, I mean, you know, I met Rachel at a fly shop, actually. So,
of course.
So it started off that way. And of all places, we met in Arizona, and through
fly fishing mecca of the world.
Yeah, that's right. But through it all, I mean, we were both quite a bit younger then, and kind of living separate lives. But through it all, it worked out. We've been married 21 years, and we have 2 kids, and she has done just about everything that someone could do in the fly fishing business, from the retail side to the travel sales side to guiding to fly casting instruction. She's done it, and she's been the glue to this whole business. I mean, let's be honest. Right?
Nice.
I mean, you know, I'm a fishing guide and a fishing bum, and I think we both know what that can mean on the business side of things. So, truly, she's been the one that's kept us going for all these
Keeps
years.
on top of it.
Yeah.
Nice. And then that's the thing too, is I mean, I have actually had the opportunity to fish with Rachel. She is definitely what I would consider a fish head, and definitely up for getting out on the river and going after whatever is in the water at that given time. And so that's actually, I mean, that is really a nice thing to have as a family, because your hope that you convey that to your children.
Correct.
And one of the things that I've told all the guides that I've just interviewed through this process so far that are in that process of raising their family is that literally at a certain point, my kids are in their 20s now, in their late 20s, and at a certain point they do get to that point where they go, oh man, Mom and Dad, that was great. Like, that was awesome. They didn't realize how much work that is for you to take us, and it's like, not every kid grows up being able to go to a ski area anytime they want, and go on a world-class fly fishing river anytime they want. And so I think eventually, the kids will notice.
Yes.
And that's definitely just kind of one of those beautiful things. We're going to navigate here a little bit.
Okay.
So,
forward.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to pivot the boat, just stop right there.
Okay.
And then we're going to pull back into this eddy here.
Okay.
And while we're doing that, think a little bit about just to share a few river incidents that have happened, either hilarious, life-changing, scary.
Okay.
But kind of some of those things that just happen along the river, because what happens on the river stays on the river most of the time, but there's a lot of stories that come out of it. Let's go forward. Howdy. Thanks for watching the Sawyer On-Water podcast. And we do most of these podcasts here on the local waters of the Rogue River. We're on the mighty Rogue River right now. And if you do enjoy these podcasts, please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the river. So now I know that the majority of your floating has been in a drift boat.
Yes.
And so that has its own challenges as well, for sure. But I also know that just going down the river in anything, there are things that come up. And so, what are some of the things that you've seen in your years on the river that kind of stand out as just some of those incredible kind of aha moments? Be a learning experience or just something that's notable.
Yeah. Well, the one that kind of sticks out that I think about and talk with my guests about often is a day several years ago where we were floating fishing between Shady and Dodge, and it was in the early fall, and it's a nice day out, and we encountered a group of floaters that were out in inflatable kayaks, and we'd see them throughout the day. They were kind of on a booze cruise, we'll call it, while we were fishing. And so, of course, as we would kind of hopscotch each other throughout the day, we'd wave and say hello and the usual river situation. But as we got along in the float, the waves kind of died off, and we acknowledged each other in different ways, I guess, but kept going. And finally, the group of floaters had gotten out on a gravel bar, and it didn't look like they were under any kind of danger or any problem. But as I had just about floated by them, one of them asked if I had any duct tape. And I said, yeah, I think I do. I think I have a bit of the roll left, and let me just dig around here. And so luckily for I guess both of us, certainly for her, I did. Had the roll of duct tape, and I said, well, what's going on? And she said, well, I burned a hole in my kayak with my cigarette. And I said, oh. And so with that, I left. I just said, well, you can keep the rest of the duct tape. And and I figured, that we floated out from there, and I figured that either she got it fixed or she would be able to hop in with a friend who's right. Close enough to the ramp, and everything would work out. And so I kind of left that thinking that was probably the end of it. But as I reached the takeout, and they all floated in, and as I backed my truck in to take the boat out, the person who I gave the tape to came up and thanked me again for it. And she said, I really learned something today. And I said, well, what's that? And she said, Next time I'll bring a roll of duct tape.
Not to stop smoking in the boat.
Not the answer I was waiting for, but that's the lesson she took away from it. So
well, you know, I mean, there are several things that professional guides and professional river users bring down the river all the time, and you know, a first aid kit and a repair kit are kind of those common pieces that come in every boat, but not every recreational boater thinks that way.
Yes.
And a lot of them, you know, I mean, we're constantly trying to educate folks that, yes, when you come out on the river, you need to wear a life jacket. It is what will float you if you are in the river. And that is also something that is very loosely adhered to in the recreational stretches of the Rogue here, where it's just like what you do encounter when you're fishing. You know, you're boating through stuff in a hard boat that's like class 1, 2, and your boat is very nimble. And yes, guests have their life jackets right near them or either on their seat. But you know, you're not wearing it all the time in the summer. But the person in the inflatable kayak that can pop, and they're kind of approaching it the same way, and they may not even have it on the same boat that they're on.
Yeah.
You know, and so like, yes, that's kind of one of those things. It's like, do yourself a favor if you're getting into exploring the rivers and you're getting out on any kind of craft, is basic necessities: life jacket, a whistle's a good idea, and then start just kind of learning the runs. You know, like surprises are where incidents happen, and so like, you know, just kind of learning the runs.
Well, like case in point, a couple years ago, just upstream, not in this particular stretch, but upstream below Shady, there was a riffle very similar to what's directly right behind us here that, you know, most people wouldn't even think twice about.
Right.
And it happened to be a guided boat with 2 guests, and I didn't see the actual incident happen. Just came in after it had, but the boat obviously got sideways in a very easy riffle, and he got stuck on a rock.
Right.
And not only did he get stuck on a rock, but as soon as that happened, you know, the boat got totally flooded with water to the point where there was no getting it off.
Right.
And luckily for them, they were so close to the bank that the guests just stepped out on the left-hand side onto some wood that had accumulated there.
Right.
That boat wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And you know, and so you just never know. You really never do. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I definitely noticed that there are, you know, when you drive around the Rogue Valley, there are drift boats everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And drift boats are fairly easy to come by, but also they don't row themselves, and they are sports cars. And I have heard several people tell us stories when they come in to our retail store where, you know, they came out and floated a run that they have floated multiple times, but it didn't really occur to them that it was springtime and the water level was very different.
Oh, yeah.
And next thing they know, they're looking at the boat ramp as they're flying by it, because their rowing skills are not quite to that key point to where they can actually navigate it. And so like, yes, there's a lot to knowing your craft, knowing your river levels, and just kind of familiarizing yourself with your river system, because as we've talked about, rivers are a live changing thing, and that is very seasonal.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think people don't really key into all the time. I know on the Lower Rogue we had some summer months where we were at really high spring flows, and that's when there were a lot of incidents, because people would float the river and think it's just the same as every summer that they've done a river trip down there, and that's maybe usually around 1800 CFS, and that particular year it was at like 3500 CFS, so a completely different river, and they're able to get through pretty much everything until they get down to Blossom Bar, and then they're just like, okay, there's literally something going on here.
Yeah.
And they get out in the fast lane, they're just not able to make the move, and they end up having an episode. So, you know, it's like, yeah, definitely know the runs you're on, know the levels you're on, and absolutely make sure you have a life jacket.
Yeah, that's good advice.
All right,
Okay.
let's go with a little forward.
Okay.
I'll be giving you paddle commands
Yeah.
while I'm firing off
Okay.
questions.
All right, great.
All right, we'll wait until we get kind of down into here.
Okay.
All righty, we're going to go into rapid questions in the rapid. Jim,
Yes.
what is your favorite river?
The road.
What is your favorite watercraft?
Drift boat.
What is the most famous stretch of river that you've ever been on, either recreational, professional, or just had the chance to be part of?
The north fly only water.
Nice. What is the trip of a lifetime that you look forward to possibly being able to do at some point with you and your wife, or you and your whole family?
Good one. Bolivia.
Bolivia.
Yeah.
Excellent. Have you ever been on the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon?
No, but at least ferry.
Lee's Ferry.
Yes.
Lee's Ferry. Have you ever guided outside the state of Oregon?
Yes.
What state did you guide in outside the state of Oregon?
Colorado, California, Wyoming, Alaska.
Excellent. Have you always been a fishing guy?
Yes.
Have you always been a fly fishing guy?
Yes.
What is your favorite fly of all time?
Rubber leg.
Rubber leg. And if you were to clarify and classify the Rogue River in one word, what would that be?
Productive.
Productive. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Jim. That is Rapid Questions in the Rapid, and that's a wrap. Nice. Well, excellent. Jim, why don't you tell the folks just kind of what the best way is for them to get a hold of you if they would like to get out on a summer steelhead trip, or fall steelhead trip, or a winter steelhead trip. And yeah, just give them the best contact.
Best way to get a hold of us is through our website, which is my last name, Andras, Andras, outfitters.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us. You can certainly call us as well. My number is 458-592-1316.
Nice.
Yeah. Texting also works really well.
Texting works as well.
Works really
Technology works great.
Yeah.
Luckily, most parts of the Rogue River here, we do actually have the ability to have internet access, or you can have cell service, and not all of it, but you can definitely reach out to Jim, reach out to Rachel, give them a call, give them an email, or just go on the website and check that out. Well, Jim, thank you very much. For all of you out there watching, thank you very much. If you did enjoy this episode of the Sawyer On-Water podcast, please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your river community. And actually, when you do get out there on the river, remember to be patient, be calm, be courteous, and we will see you on the river. If you want to find out anything more about Sawyer Paddles and Oars, or any of our previous episodes, please check us out at paddlesandoars.com. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
That is a wrap.
How'd I do? I think there was a pair of beaver that were living in that area. And just tell me what to do.
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah. They had chewed down a tree right before the river splits off to the left there.
Uh-huh.
That left
Yeah.
channel.
Oh, yeah.
And that tree had fallen over. And then, I'd flew by there every day, and those beaver were still working on that tree. Every day more bark was gone. They were still chewing away on it.
Right.
Well, that tree part of it was supported by a rock. And one day I come by there and I'm like, I could see the tree and it had shifted from where it was. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, something is different, something's weird. And sure as shit, when that tree shifted, it killed the beaver was under it.
Oh,
and
man.
the beaver was crushed.
Fell it on himself.
On himself. I'll show you the pic.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
And I'm like, man, I imagine that's not the first time that's happened, but that's a rough way to go.
Yeah, don't fall in trees
Don't
like a
fall in
beaver.
trees on yourself, man.